I'll be with y'all in a second. I'm just having a lipstick emergency. Be with you in a second. I have until the end of this song to figure out why everything is pink. All right, I am something that resembles prepared. How are all of you? Yeah, I made the maybe not so smart choice of trying to eat some Thai food before this, and there was just like too much oil going on, and that made all of this go everywhere. And then I tried to clean it up, and it just made it worse. Better? Better at all? So I probably just have to get like a lot closer. Music is turned down. Does that help? Cool. Alrighty. Whew. There we go. I'm slowly getting the hang of this mixing thing. It requires more work than I like, but it does, it will happen. One day I'll do it correctly and you won't even notice. All right, so we are going to be doing chapter 7 through 10, I believe, today is the plan. Let me confirm that. Yes, 7 to 10. And then that means that this Sunday, we do 11 to 13, and then we're done part 1. So, officially, and I have confirmed this with Jackie, she'll be joining us next Wednesday for a little talk back. Just like last time, we'll start an hour early. We'll start at 6. And then we can have a little chat about what we think about part 1. I already have some thoughts, as you all know, because I do not hold them back. But we'll get to see what Jackie thinks and go from there. And I haven't gotten so far as to schedule part 2 out and figure out when that's all going to happen, but we'll work that out. And then speaking of Jackie, we're going to just sort of go and hang out tonight. I'm going to take my time because I'm hoping we can keep going until her stream starts, and then we can just raid her, because I know a bunch of you want to just go right into watching that. And I definitely want to go right into watching that. So if you're into a murder mystery tonight, anybody watching who is not a regular viewer of Oh No, It's Jackie, you should definitely come hang out with us over there and help us figure out who killed her. Did everybody see her TikTok today to promote it? Because as I've mentioned before, like, I am not good at the TikTok. Like, I can't wrap my brain around it. And I figured out part of why this is a problem for me. It's that every time I open the app, it just starts automatically playing something. And that means that sound is coming out of, whether that's my headphone. Oh, bye, Sote. You have a great night. Have fun with your friends. But yeah, the sound is coming out of, like, whether that's my headphones or the speaker on my phone or whatever I'm connected to, like, right away. And I don't even know what it's going to be. And that gives me anxiety because I like to have a lot of control. And I can't handle it. And then especially something I like to do is, like, I'm scrolling around on my phone when I'm just hanging out, when I'm, like, usually listening to a podcast, or I've got the TV on, or I'm at work at my desk or something. And I can't, like, and it stops whatever I'm doing, and I have to only pay attention to TikTok. And I don't like that. It's like, I want to multitask. I want to do more than one thing at one time. Not just TikTok. I can't do this. I can't do this. Focus on one thing? No. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just not the app for me. I've tried to make TikToks, and I just don't. I can't do it. Can't you doom scroll TikTok? You just stay on it and it just keeps happening to you? Yeah. I mean, you're not scrolling because it's TikTok. It just, the next thing just comes up. But yeah, I don't, like, I'll open a link somebody sends me and then I'll be done. And, like, I follow a couple people, so, like, I'll get a notification when somebody posts something, but, like, 9 times out of 10, I'm not clicking on it. Because it's like, oh, okay, that's just going to be, like, my friend who thinks they're a TikTok creator, and they're just posting another mundane thing that I don't really care about, or they're doing whatever the new TikTok trend is that I don't understand anyway. So I don't know. And that says more about me than it does about them. Because it's just like, oh, I just don't care. Okay. I'm old now, I guess. Oh, my t-shirts came in. I finally got them from the post office. So this is my first one. I would try to show the whole thing, but I don't think I can. Live fast, eat trash. I relate to trash animals a lot. I wore it to work today under a blazer. I was trying to be, like, professional and yet cool. I don't know. Everybody at my job, because they're, like, involved in the music industry, some of them, a portion of the business, they're always wearing, like, band t-shirts and look really cool. And there's, like, this one girl in the office who, like, is actually kind of jealous of her style, because she's, like, always wearing, like, Docs and cool trench coats. And she's got her hair cut, like, with those, like, 60s bangs, long with 60s bangs. She's always got, like, the dark eye makeup on, so it's, like, it's kind of punk, but kind of mod, and it's like she's just really cool. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I could do that. It just like, when I tried to do it, and when I do try to do it, it doesn't look the same. Like, on me, it looks like I'm affecting something, like it's an affectation. On her, it looks genuine, and like, it just like is how she is. I'm like, so fucking effortlessly cool. It's how unfair of you. But I like my possums and my raccoons. From afar. I don't want to like touch them or get too close to them. I'm not interested in that. But raccoons are all over Toronto and the surrounding area, but especially Toronto, and occasionally possums as well, because it's a city. Actually, some kind of funny story about possums. At my parents' house, well, I was still living there, and then into when I left for college, so like right around that time, we had a tree house in the backyard, which wasn't really in a tree. It was like a little playhouse that was up on like some risers that my grandfather built for us. And my dad and my brother especially, but occasionally me when I was younger, would camp out there. Like, they'd go and they'd take like a mattress and some pillows and some bedding, and they'd go and they'd like do a little camp out. But then, because they're a little bit ADHD like me, though they won't admit it, and a little bit lazy, they would just leave it out there. Because they'd be like, oh, we're going to come back out in a couple of nights. It'll be fine. Just leave it out here. And then one time they left a bunch of it in, there was like a little like bench box that they, that you could like put stuff in. And they left a bunch of it folded up in there. And some possums made a nice little nest in there. And there were baby possums. Which meant that come springtime, it was really hard to do anything in the backyard because there was this mama possum that didn't want anybody getting near her babies. So that was fun for them. Because I was gone by the time they discovered that they were in there. And then I came back for a weekend and my friends came over, and I had one that was kind of, he liked to stir shit up, and he went up there to try to like see if he could get them out of there and poke at them. And I was like, dude, don't do that. Leave the possums alone. Okay, let's try this music out here, guys. No. No, I'm not into that. Let's go with whatever this is. Okay. Now we're getting relaxed. I don't think anything's on fire over here that shouldn't be on fire, so that's always good. Okay, we're gonna start with chapter 7. Brief reminder, what happened last time. I don't remember a ton of it. I know that Feyre's wedding got interrupted. Her wedding to Tamlin by Rhysand. He took her to the Night Court. We all agree it's the most fucking beautiful place we've ever heard of. That does not mean I forgive him, because he lives in a pretty place. I would go there, but I'm still not forgiving yet. Katrisha, it got interrupted. So she was thinking in her head that she was gonna say no, like she was having kind of a panic attack. Like she was really nervous, and she all of a sudden realized, like, I can't do this. I'm not ready for this. She was gonna say no, and then I guess with the connection, like the bond her and Rasand have through her bargain. He can hear her thoughts when she sends them to him, which is a thing, but she doesn't know she's doing it, and, vice versa. And so she was thinking, no, somebody save me, anybody save me, something to that effect. And he heard her, and so then he came and interrupted, just before she was going to have to say something or do something. And he took her away. And so now it looks like it's his fault. But really, she was going to say no anyway. So it's extremely messy. And so he's like, well, I saved you. And she's like, you didn't save me. I don't want to be here. I hate you. And yes, she's learning to read and shield her mind. And yeah, so that's what Rasand is making her do. We also met his cousin, whose name I'm forgetting at the moment, but I really like her. And just immediately before this, they had gone into a room. I forget what the room is. Oh, right, because it's Morrigan is her full name, but we call her Moore, I think. But anyway, they've gone into a room that has the big map on the wall, or on the table or something. Big map. Has big map. And just like the one that she saw at the Spring Court, at Tamlin's estate, everything is marked out except for the Night Court, which she believes is a strategic thing. And he mentioned that war is coming, and I know that. I remember that because of the first line of the chapter. So now I'm going to start reading, and hopefully other things will come back to everybody and myself as we go here. Look at this itchy point on my forehead. I hope this doesn't keep going for the rest of the night. Bright red forehead, whatever. Alright, let's go. Chapter 7. War. The word clanged through me, freezing my veins. Don't invade, I breathed. I'd get on my knees for this. I'd crawl if I had to. Don't invade, please. Reese cocked his head, his mouth tightening. You truly think I'm a monster, even after everything? Please, I gasped out. They're defenseless. They won't stand a chance. I'm not going to invade the mortal lands, he said too quietly. I waited for him to go on, glad for the spacious room, the bright air, as the ground started to slide out from beneath me. Put your damn shield up, he growled. I looked inward, finding that invisible wall had dropped again. But I was so tired. And if war was coming, if my family... Shield, now. The raw command in his voice, the voice of the High Lord of the Night Court, had me acting on instinct. My exhausted mind building the wall brick by brick. Only when it ensconced my mind once more did he speak. His eyes softening almost imperceptibly. Did you think it would end with Amarantha? Tamlin hadn't said. And why would he tell me? But there were so many patrols, so many meetings I wasn't allowed to attend. Such tension. He had to know. I needed to ask him. Demand why he hadn't told me. The King of Highburn has been planning his campaign to reclaim the world south of the Wall for over 100 years, Reese said. Amarantha was an experiment, a 49-year test, to see how easily and how long a territory might fall and be controlled by one of his commanders. For an immortal, 49 years was nothing. I wouldn't have been surprised to hear that he'd been planning this for far longer than a century. Will he attack Prithian first?
Prithian,
Rhys said, pointing to the map of our massive island on the table,
is all that stands between the King of Hybern and the continent. He wants to reclaim the human lands there, perhaps seize the fairy lands too. If anyone is to intercept his conquering fleet before it reaches the continent, it would be us.
I slid into one of the chairs, my knees wobbling so badly I could hardly keep upright.
He will seek to remove Prithian from his way swiftly and thoroughly, Rhys continued, and shatter the wall at some point in the process. There are already holes in it, though mercifully small enough to make it difficult to swiftly pass his armies through. He'll want to bring the whole thing down, and likely use the ensuing panic to his advantage.
Each breath was like swallowing glass. When is he going to attack? The wall had held steady for 5 centuries, and even then, those damned holes had allowed the foulest, hungriest Fey beasts to sneak through and prey on humans. Without that wall, if Hybern was indeed to launch an assault on the human world, I wished I hadn't eaten such a large breakfast. Yes, almost imperceptibly is such a romance novel phrase.
He chuckled darkly. His half smile. He laughed humorlessly.
All that bullshit. Oh no, I hope her bowels don't turn watery. I hope she doesn't say that again. We had enough of that book 1. Girl, didn't you learn? Not in book 2.
That's the question, he said, and why I brought you here.
I lifted my head to meet his stare. His face was drawn, but calm.
I don't know when or where he plans to attack Prithian, Rhys went on. I don't know who his allies here might be.
He'd have allies here. A slow nod.
Cowards who would bow and join him rather than fight his armies again.
I could have sworn a whisper of darkness spread along the floor behind him. Did you fight in the war? For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. But then Rhys nodded.
I was young, by our standards at least. But my father had sent aid to the Mortal Fairy Alliance on the continent, and I convinced him to let me take a legion of our soldiers.
He sat in the chair beside mine, gazing vacantly at the map.
I was stationed in the south, right where the fighting was thickest. The slaughter was...
He chewed on the inside of his cheek.
I have no interest in ever seeing full-scale slaughter like that again.
He blinked, as if clearing the horrors from his mind.
But I don't think the King of Hybern will strike that way. Not at first. He's too smart to waste his forces here. To give the continent time to rally while we fight him. If he makes his move to destroy Prithian and the wall, it'll be through stealth and trickery. To weaken us. Amarantha was the first part of that plan. We now have several untested High Lords. Broken courts with high priestesses angling for control like wolves around a carcass, and a people who have realized how powerless they might truly be.
Why are you telling me this? I said, my voice thin, scratchy. It made no sense. None. That he would reveal his suspicions, his fears. And Ianthe, she might be ambitious, but she was Tamlin's friend. My friend, of sorts. Perhaps the only ally we'd have against the other high priestesses. Rhys's personal dislike for her or no.
I'm telling you for 2 reasons, he said,
his face so cold, so calm, that it unnerved me as much as the news he was delivering.
1, you're close to Tamlin. He has men, but he also has long existing ties to Hybern.
He'd never help the king. Rhys held up a hand.
I want to know if Tamlin is willing to fight with us. if he can use those connections to our advantage. As he and I have strained relations, you have the pleasure of being the go-between. He doesn't inform me of those things. Perhaps it's time he did. Perhaps it's time you insisted.
He examined the map, and I followed where his gaze landed. On the wall with Prithian, on the small, vulnerable mortal territory. My mouth went dry. What is your other reason? Reese looked me up and down, assessing, weighing.
You have a skill set that I need. Rumor has it you caught a Suriel.
It wasn't that hard. She's not like the other girls, only she can catch the Suriel.
I've tried and failed, twice. But that's a discussion for another day. I saw you trap the Midgard worm like a rabbit.
His eyes twinkled.
I need you to help me, to use those skills of yours to track down what I need.
What do you need? Whatever was tied to my reading and shielding, I'm guessing.
You'll learn of that later.
I didn't know why I'd even bothered to ask. There have to be at least a dozen other hunters more experienced and skilled.
Maybe there are, but you're the only one I trust.
I blinked. I could betray you whenever I feel like it.
You could, but you won't.
I gritted my teeth and was about to say something vicious when he added,
and then there's the matter of your powers.
I don't have any powers. He came up so fast that there was no chance of it sounding like anything but denial. Reese crossed his legs.
Don't you? The strength, the speed. If I didn't know better, I'd say you and Tamlin were doing a very good job of pretending you're normal. That the powers you're displaying aren't usually the first indications among our kind that a High Lord's son might become his heir. You're incredibly fast and strong. You don't go out in the sunlight. I know what you are. Say it out loud. Chewini.
Of course I got your drift with that, are you kidding? Like it doesn't just live rent-free in my brain. Oh yeah, the Jennifer Coolidge. That was very good.
You're incredibly fast and strong.
I don't do a good Jennifer Coolidge, but yeah. I'm not a High Lord.
No, but you were given life by all 7 of us. Your very essence is tied to us, born of us. What if we gave you more than we expected?
Again, that gaze raked over me.
What if you could stand against us? Hold your own. A high lady.
Not like the other girls. There are no high ladies. Tamlin told me while he nibbled on my bits. Yes, Hunty, we give you life. Girl. His brows furrowed, but he shook his head.
We'll talk about that later, too. But yes, Feyre, there can be high ladies. And perhaps you aren't one of them, but what if you were something similar? What if you were able to wield the power of 7 High Lords at once? What if you could blend into darkness, or shapeshift, or freeze over an entire room, an entire army?
The winter wind on the nearby peaks seemed to howl in answer. That thing I'd felt under my skin.
Do you understand what that might mean in an oncoming war? Do you understand how it might destroy you if you don't learn to control it?
Of an army, we have a Pharaoh. Of course she'd be the chosen one. Of course she's the special... The special chosen lady. She can't just be useful because she's of both worlds at this point, and all of that. I don't know if you heard, but yeah. She's not like the other girls. She's not like them. She's different. She knows how to hunt and do outside things. One, stop asking so many rhetorical questions. 2, we don't know if I do have these powers.
You do, but you need to start mastering them to learn what you inherited from us.
And I suppose you're the one to teach me too? Reading and shielding aren't enough?
Will you hunt with me for what I need? Yes.
I began shaking my head. Tamlin won't allow it.
Tamlin isn't your keeper, and you know it.
I'm his subject, and he's my High Lord.
You are no one's subject.
I went rigid at the flash of teeth, the smoke like wings that flared out.
I will say this once, and once only.
Rasan purred, stalking to the map on the wall.
You can be a pawn, be someone's reward, and spend the rest of your immortal life bowing and scraping and pretending you're less than him, than Ianthe, than any of us. If you want to pick that road, then fine. A shame, but it's your choice. The shadow of wings rippled again. But I know you more than you realize, I think. And I don't believe for one damn minute that you're remotely fine with being a pretty trophy for someone who sat on his ass for nearly 50 years, then sat on his ass while you were shredded apart. Stop it! Or, he plowed ahead, you've got another choice. You can master whatever powers we gave to you and make it count. You can play a role in this war, because war's coming one way or another, and do not try to delude yourself that any of the Fae will give a shit about your family across the wall when our whole territory is likely to become a charnel house. I stared at the map, at Prithian, and that sliver of land at its southern base. You want to save the mortal realm?
He asked.
Then become someone Prithian listens to. Become vital. Become a weapon. Because there might be a day, Pharaoh, when only you stand between the King of Highburn and your human family, and you do not want to be unprepared.
I lifted my gaze to him, my breath tight, aching. As if he hadn't just knocked the world from beneath my feet, Rasan said, "Think it over. Take a week. Ask Tamlin if it'll make you sleep better. See what charming Ianthe has to say about it. But it's your choice to make, no one else's." And that's fair. That is all fair and correct. I wish he'd had that much faith and respect for her in the last book. And maybe he wouldn't have done what he did. But oh, now that she's a fairy and has powers, now she's worthy of your respect. At least I'm using the word respect, but that feels wrong. But now he's like, you're perfect and great, and you don't need no man. He doesn't deserve you. Oh, okay, Trisha, woo. I know he said, I know you, because he can read her mind, but that reminded me of a time I got manipulated by someone because they said, I know you, and then used a couple random things they had observed about me to convince me. Turns out they just wanted to fuck me. Surprising, right? Yeah. And that's such a shitty manipulation tactic, and I hate it. Like, you get it sometimes from people in relationships, for sure. But you also get it from toxic parents, which is like where I get most of my shit like that, right? Cause my dad constantly would be like, I know you, we're just like each other, you're just like me, we're the same, all the time. And I'm like, I'm not, though. Like, we've got similar things about us, but like, cause you're my dad, but he doesn't really know me or what I'm thinking or who I am in the deep way he thinks he does, right? Right, Gas Queen? Yeah, my brother pulled that on me when he was fighting with my dad a few years ago to try and get me on his side. Yep. Yeah, people do that, right? They're just like, oh, we're the same. You and me, we're twin sides of the same coin. Batman.
We're not so different, you and I.
You don't know shit about me. I don't know you.
I didn't see Rasan for the rest of the week. Or more. The only people I encountered were Nuala and Saradwin, who delivered my meals, made my bed, and occasionally asked how I was faring. Those are the shadow handmaidens that she had under the mountain, but now they are also her handmaidens here. Which, as I said last time, is it good or bad that they're there? I think I would never want to see them again. I'd probably be like, oh my god, it's these ladies who like painted my whole damn body all the time and didn't do anything while I was being messed with. And I'm not down with that. Who actively played a role in my being messed with. Oh yeah, no, I'm sure those are his only employees. I'm not surprised if they are. I'm just wondering like how Feyre is feeling about it, because she hasn't seemed to indicate whether or not she like cares at all. Like, I wouldn't want to see them again. Or is it good because they're familiar in a way? And so now she feels like a little kinship with them. I don't know. Like, I would think it would be triggering, but maybe it's like, oh, these are two ladies you already know, so you feel in some ways safe around them, like to a degree. I don't know. I wouldn't like it, but maybe, I don't know. Feyre's brain weird. My brain weird, but her brain weird. The only evidence I had at all that Reese remained on the premises were the blank copies of the alphabet, along with several sentences I was to write every day, swapping out words, each one more obnoxious than the last. Of course he would. Fucking hell. Yeah, they hid her from the Ator that one time, and the Pigman. The Ator and the Pigman. But
I want to see again only so I know if I can pull that voice out again. I don't know.
Swapping out words, each one more obnoxious than the last. Rasand is the most handsome High Lord. Rasand is the most delightful High Lord. Rasand is the most cunning High Lord.
I wouldn't write that. I would like on purpose write something else. Be like, oh, I'm learning See, I can transpose what you've asked me to write and wrote something better. Rasanda's a stupid idiot head. Is that better? Not at all. Every day, one miserable sentence, with one changing word of varying arrogance and vanity. And every day, another simple set of instructions, shield up, shield down, shield up, shield down, over and over again. How he knew if I obeyed or not, I didn't care. But I threw myself into my lessons. I raised and lowered and thickened those mental shields, if only because it was all I had to do. My nightmares left me groggy, sweaty, but the room was so open, the starlight so bright, that when I'd jerk awake, I didn't rush to the toilet. No walls pushing in around me, no inky darkness. I knew where I was, even if I resented being there. The day before our week finally finished, I was trudging to my usual little table, already grimacing at what delightful sentences I'd find waiting, and all the mental acrobatics ahead, when Reese's and Moore's voices floated towards me. It was a public space, so I didn't bother masking my footsteps. As I neared where they spoke in one of the sitting areas, Reese pacing before the open plunge off the mountain, Moore lounging in a cream-colored armchair.
Asriel would want to know that,
Moore was saying.
Azrael can go to hell.
Azrael the angel?
He likely already knows anyway.
We played games the last time, Moore said with a seriousness that made me pause a healthy distance away, and we lost, badly. We're not going to do that again.
You should be working,
was Rasan's only response.
I gave you control for a reason, you know.
Moore's jaw tightened, and she at last faced me. She gave me a smile that was more of a cringe. Reese turned, frowning at me.
Say what it is you came here to say, Moore,
he said, tightly, resuming his pacing. Moore rolled her eyes for my benefit, but her face turned solemn as she said, There was another attack at a temple in Césaire. Almost every priest is slain. The trove looted. Reese halted, and I didn't know what to process. Her news, or the utter rage conveyed in one word, as Reese said,
Who?
We don't know, Moore said. Same tracks as last time. Small group. Bodies that showed signs of wounds from large blades, and no trace of where they came from and how they disappeared. No survivors. The bodies weren't even found until a day later, when a group of pilgrims came by. By the cauldron. I must have made some tiny noise because Moore gave me a strained but sympathetic look. Reese, though? First the shadows started, plumes of them from his back. And then, as if his rage had loosened his grip on that beast he'd once told me he hated to yield to, those wings became flesh. Great, beautiful, brutal wings, membranous and clawed like a bat's, dark as night and strong as hell. Even the way he stood seemed altered, steadier, grounded. Like some final piece of him had clicked into place. But Rasan's voice was still midnight soft, and he said,
What did Azrael have to say about it?
Again, that glance from Moore, as if unsure I should be present for whatever this conversation was. He's pissed. Cassian even more so. He's convinced it must be one of the rogue Illyrian warbands, intent on winning new territory.
It's something to consider,
Reese mused.
Some of the Illyrian clans gleefully bowed to Amarantha during those years. Trying to expand their borders could be their way of seeing how far they can push me and get away with it.
I hated the sound of her name, focused on it more than the information he was allowing me to glean.
Cassian and Az are waiting.
She cut herself off and gave me an apologetic wince.
They're waiting in the usual spot for your orders.
Fine. That was fine. I'd seen that blank map on the wall. I was an enemy's bride. Even mentioning where his forces were stationed, what they were up to might be dangerous. I had no idea where Césaire even was, what it was actually. Reese studied the open air again, the howling wind that shoved dark, roiling clouds over the distant peaks. Good weather, I realized, for flying. Why would an oncoming storm be good weather for flying, Feyre? Wind, maybe. The right kind of wind. But you just mentioned dark clouds. And if it starts to storm, he's probably not gonna be good. So... oh.
Winnowing in would be easier,
Moore said, following the High Lord's gaze.
Tell the pricks I'll be there in a few hours,
He merely said. Moore gave me a wary grin and vanished. I studied the empty space where she'd been. Not a trace of her left behind. How does that vanishing work? I said softly. I'd seen only a few high fae do it, and no one had ever explained. Reese didn't look at me, but he said,
winnowing? Think of it as 2 different points on a piece of cloth. One point is your current place in the world. The other one across the cloth is where you want to go. Winnowing, it's like folding that cloth so the 2 spots align. The magic does the folding, and all we do is take a step to get from one place to another. Sometimes it's a long step, and you can feel the dark fabric of the world as you pass through it. A shorter step, let's say from one end of the room to the other, would barely register.
right, Kitrisha? Like, we get it. Thanks. That's not really what she was asking, I don't think. Like, I'm sure, like, she wanted a little bit of this information, and then maybe, like, how I do it.
It's a rare gift and a hopeful one, though only the stronger Fae can do it. The more powerful you are, the farther you can jump between places in one go.
I knew the explanation was as much for my benefit as it was to distract himself, but I found myself saying, I'm sorry about the temple and the priestesses. The wrath still glimmered in those eyes as he at last turned to me.
Plenty more people are going to die soon enough anyway.
So yeah, a long explanation, sure. Maybe that was why he'd allowed me to get close, to overhear this conversation, to remind me of what might very well happen with Highburn. Oh, well, that massacre will come back. Okay. Good to know. I tried. What are Illyrian warbands?
Arrogant bastards, that's what,
he muttered. I crossed my arms, waiting. Reese stretched his wings, the sunlight setting the leathery texture glowing with subtle color.
They're a warrior race within my lands, and general pains in my ass.
General pains in my ass. Get that checked out, man. Some of them supported Amarantha. Darkness danced in the hall as that distant storm grew close enough to smother the sun.
Some. But me and mine have enjoyed ourselves hunting them down these past few months. And ending them.
Slowly was the word he didn't need to add. General Pain's in my ass reporting for duty. Thanks, Katrisha. I'm in a silly mood today, too. That's okay. This is always a silly mood. Always silly mood here. Because otherwise we just get sad. Slowly was the word he didn't need to add. And that's why you stayed away. You were busy with that?
I was busy with many things.
Oh no, I'm getting hiccups. Not an answer, but it seemed he was done talking to me. And whoever Cassian and Azrael were, meeting with them was far more important. So Reese didn't as much as say goodbye before he simply walked off the edge of the veranda into the air. My heart stopped dead, but before I could cry out, he swept past, swift as the wicked wind between the peaks. A few booming wing beats had him vanishing into the storm clouds. Goodbye to you too, I grumbled, giving him a vulgar gesture, and started my work for the day. Why do you want him to say goodbye? Just fuck off. Grumbled, giving him a vulgar gesture, and started my work for the day, with only the storm raging beyond the house's shield of company. Vulgar gesture? Can we not, come on. We're all adults here. Just say she flipped him off. Come on. There's wax getting on places I don't want it over here. Damn it. Can't do anything about it right now. She just gives him vulgar gestures and calls him a prick. Yeah, I kind of wonder how often and how creatively the author swears in her own life, because I don't. Miss Maas, I don't think you swear a lot.
And she's the person who goes like, dang.
Are you gonna go or are you gonna stay? No. You're gonna go, go. There you go.
Ah, Chowini.
Even as snow lashed the protective magic of the hall, even as I toiled over the sentences.
Rhysand is interesting. Rhysand is gorgeous. Rhysand is flawless.
And raised and lowered my mental shield until my mind was limping. I thought of what I'd heard, what they'd said. I wondered what Ianthe would know about the murders, if she knew any of the victims, knew what Cesar was. If temples were being targeted, she should know. Tamlin should know. That final night, I could barely sleep. Half from relief, half from terror that perhaps Rhysand really did have some final, nasty surprise in store. But the night and the storm passed, and when dawn broke, I was dressed before the sun had fully risen. I'd taken to eating in my rooms, but I swept up the stairs, heading across that massive open area to the table at the far veranda. Sprawled in his usual chair, Reese was in the same clothes as yesterday, the collar of his black jacket unbuttoned, the shirt as rumpled as his hair. No wings, fortunately. I wondered if he'd just returned from wherever he'd met Moore and the others. Wondered what he'd learned.
It's been a week, I said, by way of greeting. Take me home.
Reese took a long sip of whatever was in his cup. It didn't look like tea.
Good morning, Feyre.
Take me home. He studied my teal and gold clothes. How Aladdin of you. A variation of my daily attire. If I had to admit, I didn't mind them.
That color suits you.
Do you want me to say please? Is that it?
I want you to talk to me like a person. Start with a good morning and let's see where it gets us.
Everybody's being so shitty. Good morning. A faint smile. Bastard.
Are you ready to face the consequences of your departure?
I straightened. I hadn't thought about the wedding. All week, yes, but today? Today I'd only thought of Tamlin, of wanting to see him, hold him, ask him about everything Reese had claimed. During the past several days, I hadn't shown any signs of the power Rasan believed I had, hadn't felt anything stirring beneath my skin. And thank the cauldron. It's none of your business.
Right. You'll probably ignore it anyway. Sweep it under the rug like everything else.
No one asked for your opinion, Rasan.
Rasan?
He chuckled, low and soft.
I give you a week of luxury and you call me Rasan?
It's your fucking name, dude. I didn't ask to be here or be given that week.
And yet look at you. Your face has some color, and those marks under your eyes are almost gone. Your mental shield is stellar, by the way.
Please take me home. He shrugged and rose.
I'll tell Mori you said goodbye.
I barely saw her all week. Just that first meeting, then that conversation yesterday. We hadn't exchanged 2 words.
She was waiting for an invitation. She didn't want to pester you. I wish she extended me the same courtesy.
No one told me. I didn't particularly care. No doubt she had better things to do anyway.
You didn't ask. Then why bother? Better to be miserable and alone.
He approached, each step smooth, graceful. His hair was definitely ruffled, as if he'd been dragging his hands through it. Or just flying for hours to whatever secret spot.
Have you thought about my offer?
I'll let you know next month. He stopped a hand's breadth away, his golden face tight.
I told you once, and I'll tell you again, he said. I am not your enemy.
And I told you once, so I'll tell you again. You're Tamlin's enemy. So I suppose that makes you mine.
Does it?
Free me from my bargain and let's find out.
I can't do that.
Can't or won't? He just extended his hand.
Shall we go?
I nearly lunged for it. His fingers were cool, sturdy, calloused from weapons I'd never seen on him. Darkness. Duh. Darkness gobbled us up, and it was instinct to grab him as the world vanished from beneath my feet. Winnowing indeed. Wind tore at me, and his arm was a warm, heavy weight across my back while we tumbled through realms, Reese snickering at my terror. But then solid ground, flagstones, were under me. Then blinding sunshine above, greenery, little birds chirping. I shoved away from him, blinking at the brightness, at the massive oak hunched over us, an oak at the edge of the formal gardens, of home. I made to bolt for the manor house, but Reese gripped my wrist. His eyes flashed between me and the manor.
Good luck.
he crooned. Get your hand off me. He chuckled, letting go.
I'll see you next month, he said.
And before I could spit on him, he vanished. I found Tamlin in his study, Lucian and 2 other sentries standing around the map-covered work table. Lucian was the first to turn to where I lurked in the doorway, falling silent mid-sentence. But then Tamlin's head snapped up, and he was racing across the room so fast that I hardly had time to draw breath before he was crushing me against him. I murmured his name as my throat burned, and then he was holding me at arm's length, scanning me from head to toe.
Are you alright? Are you hurt?
I'm fine, I said, noticing the exact moment when he realized the night court clothes I was wearing, the strip of bare skin exposed at my midriff. No one touched me. But he kept scouring my face, my neck, and then he rotated me, examining my back, as if he could discern through the clothes. I tore out of his grip. What the fuck are you doing, dude? Turn her upside down next, why don't you? I said no one touched me. He was breathing hard, his eyes wild.
You're all right,
he said, and then said it again and again. Heaven forbid someone touch her, then she'd be unclean. Soiled, ruined. A used up woman. My heart cracked, and I reached to cup his cheek. Tamlin, I murmured. Lucian and the other sentries wisely made their exit. My friend caught my gaze as he left, giving me a relieved smile.
He can harm you in other ways,
Tamlin croaked, closing his eyes against my touch. I know, but I'm all right. I truly am, I said as gently as I could, and then noticed the study walls, the claw marks raked down them, all over them, and the table they'd been using. That was new. You trashed the study.
I trashed half the house,
he said, leaning forward to press his brow to mine.
He took you away. He stole you.
And left me alone. Tamlin pulled back, growling.
Probably to get you to drop your guard. You have no idea what games he plays, what he's capable of doing.
I know, I said, even as it tasted like ash on my tongue. And the next time, I'll be careful.
There won't be a next time.
I blinked. You found a way out? Or perhaps Ianthe had.
I'm not letting you go.
He said there were consequences for breaking a magical bargain.
Damn the consequences!
But I heard it, for the empty threat it was, and how much it destroyed him. That was who he was. What he was. Protector, defender. I couldn't ask him to stop being that way, to stop worrying about me. I rose onto my toes and kissed him. There was so much I wanted to ask him, but later. Let's go upstairs, I said onto his lips, and he slid his arms around me.
I missed you,
he said between kisses.
I went out of my mind.
Oh no, it's gonna get dirty again, guys. That was all I needed to hear until... I don't know who's asking this. 1 second. Okay, I think this is him.
I need to ask you some questions.
But I feel like something she would say. I don't know. I let out a low sound of affirmation, but angled my head further. Later. His body was so warm, so hard against mine. His scent so familiar. Tamlin gripped my waist, pressing his brow to my own.
No, now,
he said, but groaned softly as I slid my tongue against his teeth.
Well,
He pulled back, ripping his mouth from mine.
well, it's all fresh in your mind.
Okay, maybe it won't get dirty. Maybe we're saved? Maybe I'm saved from having to read it out loud. That's what I'm saying. For the time being. I froze, one hand tangled in his hair, the other gripping the back of his tunic. What? Tamlin stepped back, shaking his head as if to clear the desire addling his senses. We hadn't been apart for so long since Amarantha, and he wanted to press me for information about the Night Court? Tamlin. But he held up a hand, his eyes locked on mine as he called for Lucian. In the moments that it took for his emissary to appear, I straightened my clothes, the top that had ridden up my torso, and finger-combed my hair. Tamlin just strode to his desk and plopped down, motioning for me to take a seat in front of him.
I'm sorry,
he said quietly, as Lucian's strolling footsteps neared again.
this is for our own good, for our safety.
I think it can wait, dude. Either or. Either can wait. Everything's fine.
I took in the shredded walls, the scuffed and chipped furniture.
What nightmares had he suffered, waking and asleep, while I was away? What had it been like to imagine me in his enemy's hands after seeing what Amarantha had done to me? I know, I murmured at last. I know, Tamlin. Or I was trying to know. I just slid into the low-backed chair when Lucian strode in, shutting the door behind him. Glad to see you in one piece, Feyre, he said, claiming the seat beside me. I could do without the Night Court attire, though. Tamlin gave a low growl of agreement. I said nothing. Yet I understood, I really did, why it had been an affront to them. Tamlin and Lucian exchanged glances, speaking without uttering a word in that way only people who had been partners for centuries could do. Lucian gave a slight nod and leaned back in his chair to listen, to observe.
We need you to tell us everything, Tamlin said. The layout of the Night Court, who you saw, what weapons and powers they bore, what Reese did, who he spoke to, any and every detail you can recall.
I didn't realize I was a spy. Lucian shifted in his seat, but Tamlin said,
As much as I hate your bargain, you've been granted access into the Night Court. Outsiders rarely get to go in, and if they do, they rarely come out in one piece. And if they can function, their memories are usually scrambled. Whatever Rhysand is hiding in there, he doesn't want us knowing about it.
A chill slithered down my spine. Why do you want to know? What are you going to do?
Knowing my enemy's plans, his lifestyle, is vital. As for what we're going to do, that's neither here nor there.
His green eyes pinned me.
Start with the layout of the court. Is it true it's under a mountain?
This feels an awful lot like an interrogation. Lucian sucked in a breath, but remained silent. Tamlin spread his hands on the desk.
We need to know these things, Feyre, or can you not remember?
Claws glinted at his knuckles. I can remember everything, I said. He didn't damage my mind. And before he could question me further, I began to speak of all that I had seen.
Because I trust you,
Rhysand had said. And maybe he had scrambled my mind, even with the lessons in shielding, because describing the layout of his home, his court, and the mountains around them felt like bathing in oil and mud. He was my enemy. He was holding me to a bargain I'd made from pure desperation. I kept talking, describing that tower room. Tamlin grilled me on the figures on the maps, making me turn over every word Rhysand had uttered, until I mentioned what had weighed on me the most this past week. The powers Reese believed I now possessed, and Hybern's plans. I told him about that conversation with Moore, about that temple being sacked. Césaire, Tamlin explained, was a northern outpost in the Night Court and one of the few known towns. And Rasan mentioned 2 people named Cassian and Azrael. Both of their faces had tightened at that, but they didn't mention if they knew them, or of them. So I told him about whatever the Illyrians were, and how Rhys had hunted down and killed the traitors amongst them. When I finished, Tamlin was silent, Lucian practically buzzing with whatever repressed words he was dying to spew. "Do you think I might have those abilities?" I said, willing myself to hold his gaze.
It's possible,
Tamlin said with equal quiet.
and if it's true,
Lucian said at last, "it's a power other High Lords might kill for." It was an effort not to fidget while his metal eye whirred, as if detecting whatever power ran through my blood. "My father, for one, would not be pleased to learn a drop of his power is missing, or that Tamlin's bride now has it. He'd do anything to make sure you don't possess it, including kill you. There are other High Lords who would agree." That thing beneath my skin began roiling. "I'd never use it against anyone." "It's not about using it against them. It's about having an edge when you shouldn't." Oh, sorry, that was Tamlin.
It's not about using it against them. It's about having an edge when you shouldn't,
Tamlin said.
And the moment word gets out about it, you will have a target on your back.
"Did you know?" I demanded. Lucian wouldn't meet my eyes. "Did you suspect?"
I'd hoped it wasn't true,
Tamlin said carefully.
And now that Rhys suspects, there's no telling what he'll do with the information.
"He wants me to train." I wasn't stupid enough to mention the mental shield training. Not right now.
"Training would draw too much attention,"
Tamlin said.
"You don't need to train. I can guard you from whatever comes our way."
"Okay, you protect her. Fine, whatever. Oh, just lock her in a tower. Why don't you, dude?"
You don't need to learn how to read. I'll read for you. You don't need to know what you like. I'll tell you what you like.
I want to clarify here that I also did not really like Tamlin first book. I know I was really harping on the Rasan stuff, but I never liked him either. All of the men are bad except for Lucian. He's got flaws. He's flawed, but he's not a bad man. That's right, yes, Quinn, I only like Lucian as well. You're right, Katrisha, this is the logical continuation of the knight in shining armor situation. Yeah. She should just, go find a pretty lady. Because it seems like, by and large, the men all suck. But that's just my opinion. So far, I like Morgan. We've spent 0 time with her, but Ianthe I don't trust, because religious affiliation, even if it's not Christianity, I still am concerned. Right? She's gorgeous and sassy. And didn't force herself on her. She's like, "I'll wait till I'm invited." Polite. Instead of whatever this is. For there had been a time when he could not, when he had been vulnerable and when he had watched me be tortured to death and could do nothing to stop Amarantha from... I would not allow another Amarantha. I would not allow the King of Hybern to bring his beasts and minions here to hurt more people, to hurt me and mine, and bring down that wall to hurt countless others across it. I could use my powers against Hybern.
That's out of the question, Tamlin said. Especially as there will be no war against Hybern.
Rhys says war is inevitable, and will be hit hard. Lucian said dryly, "And Rhys knows everything?" No, but he was concerned. He thinks I can make a difference in any upcoming conflict. Tamlin flexed his fingers, keeping those claws contained.
You have no training in battle or weaponry, and even if I started training you today, it'd be years before you could hold your own on an immortal battlefield.
He took a tight breath.
So despite what he thinks you might be able to do, Feyre, I'm not going to have you anywhere near a battlefield, especially if it means revealing whatever powers you have to our enemies. You'd be fighting Hybern at your front, and your foes with friendly faces at your back.
I don't care.
I care,
Tamlin snarled. Lucian whooshed out a breath.
I care if you die. I care if you die, if you're hurt, if you will be in danger every moment for the rest of our lives. So there will be no training, and we're going to keep this between us.
But Hybern, Lucian inadvertently... Yeah, he sure grunts and growls a lot. So do I. I'm not Tim Allen, I'll stop. That's not funny, and I don't like him. He's a bad man. Lucian intervened calmly. I already have my sources looking into it. I gave him a beseeching look. Lucian sighed a bit and said to Tamlin, if we perhaps trained her in secret...
Too many risks, too many variables, Tamlin countered. And there will be no conflict with Hybern, no war.
I snapped. That's wishful thinking. Lucian muttered something that sounded like a plea to the cauldron. Tamlin stiffened.
Describe his map room for me again,
was his only response. End of discussion. No room for debate. We stared each other down for a moment, and my stomach twisted further. He was the High Lord. My High Lord. He was the shield and defender of his people. Of me. And if keeping me safe meant that his people could continue to hope, to build a new life, that he could do the same, I could bow to him on this one thing. I could do it.
You are no one's subject.
Maybe Rhysand had altered my mind. Shields or no. The thought alone was enough for me to begin feeding Tamlin details once more.
And that's chapter 7.
Whew, that was a long one. Well, it was long, and I also was taking my time. What time is 6:30 PST? I want to make sure we don't overstay our time here. Because I'm dumb, I can't do the mental math. Okay, so it's 9:30, so we got time. We got some time here. Okay, so I'm gonna get right in on thank you, Katrusha. Okay, I'm gonna get right in on chapter 8 here. And I think we'll make it fine. Normally there's not anything going on after me on Wednesday, so I can just take my time and hang out and it's all good, but tonight we got plans, baby. Chapter 8. A week later, the tithe arrived. I'd had all of one day with Tamlin. One day spent wandering the grounds, making love in the high grasses of a sunny field, and a quiet private dinner before he was called to the border. He didn't tell me why or where, only that I was to keep the grounds and that I'd have sentries guarding me at all times. So I spent the week alone, waking in the middle of the night to hurl at my guts, to sob through the nightmares. Ianthe, if she'd learned of her sister's massacre in the north, said nothing about it the few times I saw her. And given how little I liked to be pushed into talking about the things that plagued me, I opted not to bring it up during the hours she spent visiting, helping select my clothes, my hair, my jewelry for the tithe. Okay, here's something we can bring up. So, now that she's back home, she's back to having these terrible nightmares and crying and throwing up, and it was terrible. But clearly being in a big open room was helpful. And you don't think that she could have brought that up? Like, just speaking purely in terms of, like, the physical space she's in, I feel like there's something that could be done about that. Get her a tent outside, I don't know. But, like, something. Because clearly what she's doing now is not working for her. There are deeper things. There's more that could be done, but at least that would be inoffensive, I think. Right? Like, she was trapped in a tiny cell. That's like when people get out of jail and they're like, I don't know how to sleep on a bed anymore. Right? Like, it's a thing. So can we help? Sorry. Of course we can't. That would make sense. Yes, somebody help this girl. Anybody help. Actual, for real, actual help, though. Not like Rissand help, which is not really help, I don't think. It's still a form of manipulation. When I'd asked her to explain what to anticipate, she merely said that Tamlin would take care of everything. I should watch from his side and observe. Easy enough, and perhaps a relief to not be expected to speak or act. But it'd been an effort not to look at the eye tattooed into my palm, to remember what Rhys had snarled at me. Tamlin had only returned the night before to oversee today's tithe. I tried not to take it personally, not when he had so much on his shoulders, even if he wouldn't tell me much about it beyond what Ianthe had mentioned. Seated beside Tamlin atop a dais in the manor's great hall of marble and gold, I endured the endless stream of eyes, of tears, of gratitude and blessings for what I'd done. In her usual pale blue hooded robe, Ianthe was stationed near the doors, offering benedictions to those that departed, comforting words to those who fell apart entirely in my presence, promises that the world was better now, that good had won out over evil. After 20 minutes, I was near fidgeting. After 4 hours, I stopped hearing entirely. They kept coming, the emissaries representing every town and people in the spring court, bearing their payments in the form of gold or jewels, or chickens or crops or clothes. It didn't matter what it was, so long as it equated to what they owed. Lucian stood at the foot of the dais, tallying every amount, armed to the teeth like the 10 other sentries stationed through the hall. The receiving room, Lucian had called it, but it felt a hell of a lot like a throne room to me. I wondered if he'd called it that because the other words... I'd spent too much time in another throne room. So had Tamlin. And I hadn't been seated on a dais like him, but kneeling before it. Approaching it like the slender, gray-skinned fairy slinking from the front of the endless line full of lesser and high fae. She wore no clothes. Her long, dark hair hung limp over her high, firm breasts. And her massive eyes were wholly black, like a stagnant pond. And as she moved, the afternoon light shimmered on her iridescent skin. Lucian's face tightened with disapproval, but he made no comment as the lesser fairy lowered her delicate pointed face and clasped her spindly webbed fingers over her breasts.
On behalf of the water wraiths, I greet thee, High Lord,
she said, her voice strange and hissing, her full sensuous lips revealing teeth as sharp and jagged as a pike's. The sharp angles of her face accentuated those coal-black eyes. I'd seen her kind before, in the pond just past the edge of the manor. There were 5 of them who lived amongst the reeds and lily pads. I'd rarely glimpsed more than their shining heads peeking through the glassy surface. I'd never known how horrific they were up close. Is she scary or sexy? Decide and then describe it appropriately, because you've done both here. And now I don't know. I don't know if both is right. Both feels wrong. Scary, sexy. Sexy here, scary here. Ay, 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 ay.
My dick is uncomfortably erect.
Yes. Yes. It's scary how sexy I find her. I like the sound alert freaked me out. Good job. Thank the cauldron I'd never gone swimming in that pond. I had a feeling she'd grab me with those webbed fingers, those jagged nails digging in deep, and drag me beneath the surface before I could scream. I need to show you how cute Mimi is. She's been perching on that pillow like that for like a while now. Like, that's her new spot. It's so cute because she like pushed it down herself and made it a little nest, made it her little platform. She said I wanted to be higher up on the chair so everyone could see me. Yeah, everybody got to see you because you're so cute. Yeah, because you're pretty. Yeah.
welcome,
Tamlin said. 5 hours in, and he looked as fresh as he'd been that morning. I suppose that with his powers returned, few things tired him now. The water wraith stepped closer, her webbed, clawed foot a mottled gray. Lucian took a casual step between us. That was why he'd been stationed on my side of the dais. I gritted my teeth. Who did they think would attack us in our own home, on our own land, if they weren't convinced Highburn might be launching an assault? Right? So fucking racist, dude. Goddamn xenophobe. Even Ianthe had paused her quiet murmurings in the back of the hall to monitor the encounter. You wanted them to come and give you shit, man. Like, just let them come, then. Hey. That's rude. People are watching. Don't be rude. Apparently, this conversation was not the same as all the others.
Please, High Lord,
the fairy was saying, bowing so low that her inky hair grazed the marble. Really is, isn't it, this song?
There are no fish left in the lake.
Tamlin's face was like granite.
Regardless, you are expected to pay.
The crown on top his head gleamed in the afternoon light. Crafted with emeralds, sapphires, and amethyst, the gold had been molded into a wreath of spring's first flowers, one of 5 crowns belonging to his bloodline. The fairy exposed her palms, but Tamlin interrupted her.
There are no exceptions. You have 3 days to present what is owed, or offer double next tithe.
It was an effort to keep from gaping at the immovable face and the pitiless words. In the back, Ianthe gave a nod of confirmation to no one in particular. The water wraith had nothing to eat. How could he expect her to give him food?
Please.
She whispered through her pointed teeth. Her silvery, mottled skin glistened as she began trembling.
There is nothing left in the lake.
Tamlin's face didn't change.
You have 3 days.
But we have no gold.
Do not interrupt me,
he said. I looked away, unable to stomach that merciless face. She ducked her head even lower.
Apologies, my lord.
You have 3 days to pay, or bring double next month, he repeated. If you fail to do so, you know the consequences.
Tamlin waved a hand in dismissal. Conversation over. I will say this. So, yeah. No mercy. Not cool. But he did offer them the option. Yeah, eat the rich, for sure. But he did offer them the option to bring double the next month. And I feel like I would take that offer. And then you have a whole month to figure out how you're gonna con him so you don't have to worry about it. Because I always think it's better to play the system than to just outright be like, please, I have nothing, because I have nothing. I owe taxes, and I have nothing to give to the taxes. I have nothing to give to tax. So I just keep telling the government, cannot do. And then they're like, okay then, fine. Exactly, it's not double plus interest, it's just double, right? So like, okay, so I can't come up with it in 3 days. Let me come up with double next month, and then you take that month, and you find a way to skirt around it. Yeah, like if they can't pay this time, they probably won't be able to pay double next time. But like I said, you use the time to come up with some sort of con or plan. Yep, poor get poor, rich get richer for sure. Like whether that's like, okay, we're gonna stage a heist. We're gonna breed the fish. How long does it take to breed some fish? Can we do it real quick? I don't know. Can we craft? Can we do some crafting? Can we hold a bake sale? I don't know what the answer is, but I feel like it's better to have the month to figure it out than to just be like, nothing for ya. I don't know. Like, this makes it sound like it's every month. Like rent. How exhausting. Even if it's every year, it's exhausting. For everyone involved. Like, ugh, God, this whole fucking thing all the time. You just mail it to me. Could this have been a text? I think this could have been a text. They have modern toilets that are not texting. Come on. Anyway, we're running out of time here, so we better get through this. Okay. Tamlin waved a hand in dismissal. Conversation over. After a final, hopeless look at Tamlin, she walked from the chamber. As the next fairy, a goat-legged fawn bearing what looked to be a basket of mushrooms, patiently waited to be invited to approach the dais, I twisted to Tamlin.
"You don't need a basket of fish," I murmured. "Why make her suffer like that?"
He flicked his eyes to where Ianthe had stepped aside to let the creature pass, a hand on the jewels of her belt, as if the female would snatch them right off her to use as payment.
Fucking racist!
Ugh. Tamlin frowned.
"I cannot make exceptions. Once you do, everyone will demand the same treatment."
I clutched the arms of my chair, a small seat of oak beside his giant throne of carved roses.
"But we don't need these things. Why do we need a golden fleece or a jar of jam? If she has no fish left, 3 days won't make a difference. Why make her starve? Why not help her replenish the pond?"
I'd spent enough years with an aching belly to not be able to drop it, to want to scream at the unfairness of it. His emerald eyes softened as if he read each thought on my face, but he said,
"Because that's the way it is. That's the way my father did it and his father, and the way my son shall do it."
He offered a smile and reached her mighty hand.
"Someday."
Now you're making it about that? Dude, not the conversation we're having right now. We're having a different fight. Someday, if we ever got married, if I ever became less of a burden, and we both escaped the shadows haunting us. We hadn't broached the subject at all. Ianthe mercifully had not said anything either. We could still help her. Find some way to keep that pond stocked.
"We have enough to deal with as it is. Giving handouts won't help her in the long run."
Fucking Republican. Anyway. I opened my mouth but shut it. Now wasn't the time for debate. So I pulled my hand from him and he motioned the goat-legged fawn to approach at last. "I need some fresh air," I said, and slid from my chair. I didn't give Tamlin a chance to object before I stalked off the dais. I tried not to notice the 3 sentries Tamlin sent after me, or the line of emissaries who gaped and whispered as I crossed the hall. Ianthe tried to catch me as I stormed by, but I ignored her. I cleared the front doors and walked as fast as I dared past the gathered line snaking down the steps and onto the gravel of the main drive. Through the latticework of various bodies, high fae and lesser fairies alike, I spotted the retreating form of the wraith heading around the corner of our house, toward the pond beyond the grounds. She trudged along, wiping at her eyes. "Excuse me," I called, catching up to her. The sentries on my trail keeping a respectful distance behind. She paused at the edge of the house, whirling with preternatural smoothness. I avoided the urge to take a step back as those unearthly features devoured me. Keeping only a few paces away, the guards monitored us with hands on their blades. Her nose was little more than 2 slits, and delicate gills flared beneath her ears. She inclined her head slightly. Not a full bow, because I was no one, but recognition that I was the High Lord's plaything. Oh, she's taking a different feeling to him, I guess.
"Yes," she hissed,
her pike's teeth gleaming. "How much is your tithe?" My heart beat faster as I beheld the webbed fingers and razor-sharp teeth. Tamlin had once told me that the water wraiths ate anything, and if there were no fish left... How much gold does he want? What is your fish worth in gold?
"4 more than you have in your pocket."
Then here, I said, unfastening a ruby-studded gold bracelet from my wrist. One Ianthe had told me better suited my coloring than the silver I'd almost worn. I offered it to her. "Take this." Before she could grasp it, I ripped the gold necklace from my throat, and the diamond teardrops from my ears. "And these." I extended my hands, glittering with gold and jewels. "Give him what you owe, then buy yourself some food," I said, swallowing as her eyes widened. The nearby village had a small market every week, a fledgling gathering of vendors for now, and one I'd hoped to help thrive, somehow.
And what payment do you require?
Nothing. It's not a bargain. Just take it. I extended my hands further. Please. She frowned at the jewels draping from my hands.
You desire nothing in return?
Nothing. The fairies in the line were now staring unabashedly. Please, just take them. With a final assessing look, her cold, clammy fingers brushed mine, gathering up the jewelry. It glimmered like light on water in her webbed hands.
Thank you,
she said, and bowed deeply this time.
I will not forget this kindness.
Her voice slithered over the words, and I shivered again as her black eyes threatened to swallow me whole.
Nor will any of my sisters.
She stalked back toward the manor, the faces of my 3 sentries tight with reproach. I did kind of want her to be like, I don't want your pity. Get out of here. But at the same time, like, problem solved? Kinda. Not really. I always wonder about that when it's a solution in like movies or books where they're just like, here, take this jewelry. Or take this fancy painting. It's like, it's not actually worth anything until you sell it. So, because like I got stuff here that's theoretically extremely valuable, but I can't sell it, so. Yeah. No, like it is. It's just I'm just saying. Like, Tamlin's gonna know it's hers, so, like... Yeah. I'm not prideful. I will take anything from anybody most of the time, though. I sat at the dinner table with Lucian and Tamlin. Neither of them spoke, but Lucian's gaze kept bouncing from me to Tamlin and then to his plate. After 10 minutes of silence, I set down my fork and said to Tamlin, "What is it?" Tamlin didn't hesitate.
You know what it is.
I didn't reply.
You gave that water wraith your jewelry. Jewelry I gave you.
We have a damned house full of gold and jewels, and she literally just gave it back to you, dude. So, like, now you have it back, oh boy! Like, no harm, no foul, just let it go. Lucian took a deep breath that sounded a lot like, here we go. Why shouldn't I give them to her? I demanded. Those things don't mean anything to me. I've never worn the same piece of jewelry twice. Who cares about any of it? Tamlin's lips thinned.
Because you undermine the laws of this court when you behave like that. Because this is how things are done here. And when you hand that gluttonous fairy the money she needs, it makes this entire court look weak.
Did he just call that lady gluttonous? Fuck you, man. You just called her fucking greedy? Son of a bitch, you're... Fuck you. Don't you talk to me like that, I said, baring my teeth. He slammed his hand on the table, claws poking through his flesh, and I leaned forward, bracing my own hands on the wood. You still have no idea what it was like for me, to be on the verge of starvation for months at a time. And you can call her a glutton all you like, but I have sisters too, and I remember what it felt like to return home without any food. I calmed my heaving chest, and that force beneath my skin stirred, undulating along my bones. So maybe she'll spend all that money on stupid things. Maybe she and her sisters have no self-control. But I'm not going to take that chance and let them starve because of some ridiculous rule that your ancestors invented. Lucian cleared his throat. She meant no harm, Tam.
I know she meant no harm,
he snapped. Lucian held his gaze. Worse things have happened. Worse things can happen. Just relax. Tamlin's emerald eyes were feral as he snarled at Lucian.
Did I ask for your opinion?
Those words, the look he gave Lucian, and the way Lucian lowered his head. My temper was a burning river in my veins. Look up, I silently beseeched him. Push back. He's wrong and we're right. Lucian's jaw tightened. That force thrummed in me again, seeping out, spearing for Lucian. Do not back down. Then I was gone. Still there, still seeing through my eyes, but also half looking through another angle in the room, another person's vantage point. Thoughts slammed into me, images and memories, a pattern of thinking and feeling that was old and clever and sad, so endlessly sad and guilt-ridden, hopeless. Then I was back, blinking, no more than a heartbeat passing as I gaped at Lucian. His head. I had been inside his head, had slid through his mental walls. I stood, checking my napkin on the table with hands that were unnervingly steady. I knew who that gift had come from. My dinner rose in my throat, but I willed it down.
We're not finished with this meal, Tamlin growled.
Oh, get over yourself, I barked and left. I could have sworn I beheld 2 burned handprints on the wood, peeking out from beneath my napkin. I prayed neither of them noticed. And that Lucian remained ignorant to the violation I'd just committed. Snaps for Feyre. I want a snap cup. Ooh, maybe that's what I should do at my office. I've been trying to come up with like fun things that I can do now that I'm office manager, since they won't give me like money. It'd probably just be annoying. People would probably just be like, this is an additional thing to my day. Get out of here. Quit trying to give me praise and just pay me. And fair enough. People barely wanted the pie. I brought pie for Pie Day. It sat there for 2 days, slowly being picked away at. I brought home a whole lemon meringue. Everybody loves pie. Okay. We can complete chapter 9. I don't think we're gonna get 10 done in time, but we can do chapter 9. I paced my room for a good while. Maybe I'd been mistaken when I'd spotted those burns. Maybe they'd been there before. Maybe I hadn't somehow summoned heat and branded the wood. Maybe I hadn't slid into Lucian's mind as if I were moving from one room to another. Just as she always did. Alice appeared... Just as she always did, Alice appeared to help me change for bed. As I sat before the vanity, letting her comb my hair, I cringed at my reflection. The purple beneath my eyes seemed permanent now, my face wan. Even my lips were a bit pale, and I sighed as I closed my eyes. You gave your jewels to a water wraith, Alice mused, and I found her reflection in the mirror. Her brown skin looked like crushed leather, and her dark eyes gleamed for a moment before she focused on my hair. They're a slippery sort. That's just because they're wet. She said they were starving. That they had no food, I murmured. Alice gently coaxed at a tangle.
Not one fairy in that line today would have given her the money. Not one would have dared.
Too many have gone to a watery grave because of their hunger. Insatiable appetite. It is their curse. Your jewels won't last her a week. I tapped a foot on the floor. But, Alice went on, setting down the brush to braid my hair into a single plait. Her long, spindly fingers scratched against my scalp. She will never forget it. So long as she lives, no matter what you said, she is in your debt. Alice finished the braid and patted my shoulder.
Too many fairies have tasted hunger these past 50 years. Don't think word of this won't spread.
I was afraid of that, perhaps more than anything. It was after midnight when I gave up waiting, walked down the dark, silent corridors, and found him in his study, alone for once. A wooden box wrapped with a fat pink bow sat on the small table between the twin armchairs.
I was just about to come up,
he said, lifting his head to do a quick scan over my body to make sure all was right, all was fine.
You should be asleep.
I shut the door behind me. I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep, not with the words we'd shouted ringing in my ears. So should you, I said, my voice as tenuous as the peace between us. You work too hard. I crossed the room to lean against the armchair, eyeing the present as Tamlin had eyed me.
Why do you think I had such little interest being in High Lord?
Interest in being High Lord, he said, rising from his seat to round the desk. He kissed my brow, the tip of my nose, my mouth.
So much paperwork.
Paperwork. He grumbled onto my lips. I chuckled, but he pressed my mouth to the bare spot between my neck and shoulder.
I'm sorry,
he murmured, and my spine tingled. He kissed my neck again.
I'm sorry.
I ran a hand down his arm. Tamlin, I started.
I shouldn't have said those things,
he breathed onto my skin.
To you or Lucian. I didn't mean any of them.
I know, I said, and his body relaxed against mine. I'm sorry I snapped at you.
You had every right, he said,
though I technically didn't.
I was wrong.
What he said had been true. If he made exceptions, then other fairies would demand the same treatment. And what I had done could be construed as undermining. Maybe I was...
No, you were right. I don't understand what it's like to be starving. Or any of it.
I pulled back a bit to incline my head toward the present waiting there. More than willing to let this be the last of it. I gave a small, wry smile. For you? He nipped at my ear in answer.
For you. For me.
An apology. Dude, if there's one thing she doesn't need, it's more presents, okay? I guess we know his love language. Feeling lighter than I had in days, I tugged the ribbon loose and examined the pale wood box beneath. It was perhaps 2 feet high and 3 feet wide, a solid iron handle anchored to the top. No crest or lettering to indicate what might be within. Certainly not a dress, but please not a crown. Though surely a crown or diadem would be in something less rudimentary. I unlatched the small brass lock and flipped open the broad lid. It was worse than a crown, actually. Built into the box were compartments, as sleeves and holders, all full of brushes, and paints and charcoal and sheets of paper, a traveling painting kit. Red. The red paint inside the glass vial was so bright, the blue as stunning as the eyes of that fairy woman I'd slaughtered.
I thought you might want to take it around the grounds with you, rather than lug all those bags like you always do.
The brushes were fresh, gleaming, the bristles soft and clean. Looking at that box, at what was inside, felt like examining a crow-picked corpse. I tried to smile, tried to will some brightness into my eyes. He said,
You don't like it?
"No," I managed to say, "no, it's wonderful." And it was. It really was.
I thought if you started painting again.
I waited for him to finish. He didn't. My face heated. "And what about you?" I asked quietly. "Will the paperwork help with anything at all?" I dared meet his eyes. Temper flared in them, but he said,
We're not talking about me. We're talking about you.
I studied the box and its contents again. Will I ever be allowed to roam where I wish to paint? Or will there be an escort too? Silence. A no. And a yes then. I began shaking, but for me, for us, I made myself say, Tamlin, I can't live my life with guards around me day and night. I can't live with that suffocation. Just let me help you. Let me work with you.
You've given enough, Feyre.
I know, but I faced him, met his stare, the full power of the High Lord of the Spring Court. I'm harder to kill now. I'm faster, stronger.
My family was faster and stronger than you, and they were murdered quite easily.
Then marry someone who can put up with this. He blinked, slowly. Then he said with terrible softness,
Do you not want to marry me then?
I tried not to look at the ring on my finger, at that emerald. Of course I do. Of course I do. My voice broke. But you, Tamlin. The walls pushed in on me. The quiet. The guards. The stairs. What I'd seen at the tithe today. I'm drowning, I managed to say. I'm drowning. And the more you do this, the more guards. You might as well be shoving my head under the water. Nothing in those eyes, that face. But then, I cried out, instinct taking over as his power blasted through the room. The windows shattering, the furniture splintered, and that box of paints and brushes and paper, it exploded into dust and glass and wood. Oh. Damn. I want to keep going, but like 5 minutes, guys. I don't know. Right, Katricia? That's where the chapter leaves off. Okay, you know what? Let's read chapter 10 until Jackie goes live. I will go as quick as I can without compromising anything, and maybe we should be a little late. Maybe we'll make it. One breath, the study was intact. The next, it was shards of nothing, a shell of a room. None of it had touched me from where I had dropped to the floor, my hands over my head. Tam was panting, the ragged breaths almost like sobs. I was shaking so hard I thought my bones would splinter as the furniture had, but I made myself lower my arms and look at him. There was devastation on that face, and pain, and fear, and grief. Around me, no debris had fallen, as if he had shielded me. Tamlin took a step toward me, over that invisible demarcation. He recoiled as if he'd hit something solid.
Feyre?
He rasped. He stepped again, and that line held.
Feyre, please,
He breathed, and I realized that the line, that bubble of protection, it was for me. A shield. Not just a mental one, but a physical one, too. I didn't know what High Lord it had come from, who controlled air or wind or any of that. Perhaps one of the solar courts. I didn't care.
Feyre,
Tamlin groaned a third time, pushing a hand against what indeed looked like an invisible curved wall of hardened air.
please, please.
He did a fairy version of hitting her? God damn. Not okay. Those words cracked something in me. Cracked me open. Perhaps they cracked that shield of solid wind as well, for his hand shot through it. Then he stepped over that line between chaos and order, danger and safety. He dropped to his knees, taking my face in his hands.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't stop trembling.
I'll try, he breathed. I'll try to be better. I can't control it sometimes. The rage. Today was bad.
Oh, goodness.
With the tide, with all of it. Today, let's forget it. Let's just move past it, please.
I didn't fight as he slid his arms around me, tucking me in tightly enough that his warmth soaked through me. He buried his face in my neck and said onto my nape, as if the words would be absorbed by my body, as if he could only say it the way we'd always been good at communicating, skin to skin.
I couldn't save you before. I couldn't protect you from them. And when you said that about me drowning you, am I any better than they were?
I should have told him it wasn't true, but I had spoken with my heart, or what was left of it.
I'll try to be better.
He said again,
Please, give me more time. Let me get through this, please.
Get through what? I wanted to ask. But words had abandoned me. I realized I hadn't spoken yet. Realized he was waiting for an answer, and that I didn't have one. So I put my arms around him, because body to body was the only way I could speak, too. It was answer enough.
I'm sorry,
he said again. He didn't stop murmuring it for minutes. You've given enough, Feyre. Perhaps he was right, and perhaps I didn't have anything left to give anyway. I looked over his shoulder as I held him. The red paint had splattered on the wall behind us, and as I watched it slide down the cracked wood paneling, I thought it looked like blood. Tamlin didn't stop apologizing for days. He made love to me morning and night. He worshipped my body with his hands, his tongue, his teeth. But that had never been the hard part. We just got tripped up with the rest. But he was good for his word. There were fewer guards as I walked the grounds. Some remained, but no one haunted my steps. I even went on a ride through the woods without an escort, though I knew the stable hands had reported to Tamlin the moment I'd left, and returned. Tamlin never mentioned that shield of solid wind I'd used against him, and things were good enough that I didn't dare bring it up either. The days passed in a blur. Tamlin was away more often than not, and whenever he returned, he didn't tell me anything. I'd long since stopped pestering him for an answer. A protector, that's who he was, and would always be. What I had wanted when I was cold and hard and joyless. What I had needed to melt the ice of bitter years on the cusp of starvation. I didn't have the nerve to wonder what I wanted or needed now, who I had become. So with idleness my only option, I spent my days in the library, practicing my reading and writing, adding to that mental shield, brick by brick, layer by layer. Sometimes seeing if I could summon that physical wall of solid air, too, savoring the silence, even as it crept into my veins, my head. Some days I didn't speak to anyone at all, even Alice. I woke each night, shaking and panting, and became glad when Tamlin wasn't there to witness it, when I, too, didn't witness him being yanked from his dreams, cold sweat coating his body. Or shifting into that beast and staying awake until dawn, monitoring the estate for threats. What could I say to calm those fears, when I was the source of so many of them? But he returned for an extended stay about 2 weeks after the tithe, and I decided to try to talk, to interact. I owed it to him to try, owed it to myself. He seemed to have the same idea, and the first time in a while, things felt normal, or as normal as they could be. I awoke one morning to the sound of low, deep voices in the hallway outside my bedroom. Closing my eyes, I nestled into the pillow and pulled the blankets higher. Despite our morning roll in the sheets, I'd been rising later every day, sometimes not bothering to get out of bed until lunch. A growl cut through the walls, and I opened my eyes again. "Get out," Tamlin warned. There was a quiet response, too soft for me to make out beyond basic mumbling. "I'll say it one last time." He was interrupted by that voice, and the hair on my arms rose. I studied the tattoo on my forearm as I did a tally. No, today couldn't have come so quickly. Kicking back the covers, I rushed to the door, realizing halfway there that I was naked. Thanks to Tamlin, my clothes had been shredded and flung across the other side of the room, and I had no robe in sight. I grabbed a blanket from a nearby chair and wrapped it around me before opening the door a crack. Sure enough, Tamlin and Rasan stood in the hallway. Upon hearing the door open, Reese turned toward me. The grin that had been on his face faltered.
Vera,
Reese's eyes lingered, taking in every detail.
are you running low on food here?
What? Tamlin demanded. His violet eyes had gone cold. Reese extended a hand toward me.
Let's go.
Tamlin was in Rasan's face in an instant, and I flinched.
Get out.
He pointed toward the staircase.
She'll come to you when she's ready.
Rasan just brushed an invisible fleck of dust off Tamlin's sleeve. Part of me admired the sheer nerve it must have taken. Had Tamlin's teeth been inches from my throat, I would have bleated in panic. Reese cut a glance at me.
No, you wouldn't have. As far as your memory serves me, the last time Tamlin's teeth were near your throat, you slapped him across the face.
I snapped up my forgotten shield, scowling. "Shut your mouth," Tamlin said, stepping further between us, "and get out." I'm gonna leave it there because Jackie just went live, and I don't want y'all to miss out, so. We're setting up the raid. All right, y'all. I will see y'all in chat. I hope that the mystery is good. See you soon.